When California secession became real, shocking truth about a divided nation. The skies over San Francisco turned a foreboding shade of crimson as the news spread like wildfire. California had declared its independence. Streets pulsated with anxious energy, vibrant protests erupted, and citizens stood frozen, gripped by equal measures of fear and anticipation. What did it mean? Was it the start of something monumental or a descent into chaos? Curiosity gripped the nation, social media exploded with opinions, rants, and wild theories, igniting a frenzy like nothing seen before. With every news bulletin, the tension thickened. Each headline whispered promises of a future smoldering with uncertainty. Something strange was afoot. Reports began to swirl around like autumn leaves caught in a gust. Authorities spoke of unexplained power outages across major cities, with bright lights flickering only to dim again, as if mocking the very stability people relied upon. And there were fragments of ancient texts, unearthed from long-forgotten archives and surfacing among the chaos, discussing prophecies of a divided America. Some spoke of a golden state, home to secrets that could reshape the future. It sent chills down spines, leaving folks to wonder what ancient truths might collide with modern lives, but every tale spins a darker thread. Hidden among the protesters were whispers of orchestrated attempts to create unrest. A man in a faded hoodie appeared at every critical moment, his eyes glinting with an unsettling calmness. Pockets of growing anger began to boil, flaring up violently one moment, only to slip back into uneasy silence the next. Outrage echoed through the streets like a war drum, a collective heartbeat racing towards an uncertain climax. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As rumors continued to spread, the anger morphing into something dark and unforgiving, the ground trembled with unseen forces. Could this be the beginning of a new order, or was it a headlong rush into despair? What secrets did California hide within its borders that could unleash such chaos? A question lingered in the late-night air, crackling with electric tension. Could secession be just the tip of the iceberg? The answer hid somewhere in the shadows, waiting for the brave to unravel the truth. The night air hung heavy, charged with a blazing uncertainty. Shadows loomed larger as the sun dipped below the horizon, the vibrant protests twisting into something darker. Voices, once vibrant with belief, became a low rumble of fear and fury. Unity splintered, individuals turned on one another. Was it instinct or was something more sinister guiding them? Cassandra stood on the edge of the protest crowd, her heart racing. She had come to seek answers but found only chaos. Around her, faces twisted in anger and confusion, veering dangerously close to violence. She could feel the heat of fear emanating around her, creeping under her skin. What had started as a plea for autonomy teetered on the edge of mob mentality. As she grasped for clarity, her gaze fell upon the man in the faded hoodie, lurking just beyond the throng. With an eerie air of detachment, he watched the frenzy unfold. Each flicker of the streetlights cast ominous shadows over his face, revealing a cocky half-smirk that made her stomach twist. Who was he? Was he a friend or a puppet master? The unease coiled tighter around her like a python. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the air. A storefront window shattered, sending shards of glass raining onto the pavement like tiny diamonds in an unforgiving night. Screams erupted, slicing through the tumult. That was it. Instinct took over, propelling Cassandra into action. No! Stop! She shouted, her voice barely cutting through the chaos. But the crowd surged, some joined in the vandalism, complicit in the madness. Panic rippled through the gathered throng. Were those flames she saw roaring up ahead? A fire danced ominously, black smoke coiling toward the sky, as if the city itself was suddenly ablaze with rage. Heart pounding, she forced her way through the crowd, desperate to reach her younger brother, Ethan, who had come along, swept up in all of it. "Ethan!" she cried, her voice cracking. She pushed further through, pushing past bodies and limbs. Fear gnawed at her like a constant ache. Was he safe, or had he too fallen victim to the chaos? Just then, a figure emerged from the smoke, darting like a shadow. Cassandra. It was Ethan, his wide eyes filled with bewilderment. Relief surged through her, but it was short-lived. Before she could reach him, the man in the hoodie appeared beside him. "Come with me," the man ordered, his voice low yet commanding. Ethan hesitated, uncertainty flickering across his face. A fierce protectiveness washed over Cassandra like an icy wave. "Don't go with him," she yelled, the words tearing from her throat. The air crackled with tension. The crowd had begun to split, wrestling with their instincts. Some cheered for the chaos, fueling the fire, while others began to question the madness. Cassandra's heart pounded. A choice loomed ahead. Stay with her brother, or dig deeper into the secrets threatening to swallow them whole. But as the man in the hoodie locked eyes with her, something shifted. The smirk faded, replaced by an intensity that sent chills down her spine. "There are things you don't know about California, about this moment," he murmured, astonishingly calm amidst the storm around them. What revelation lay ahead? In the eye of the chaos, Cassandra found herself at a crossroads. Fear gripped her, but so did curiosity. Was this man truly a harbinger of truth, or was he another puppet in the disarray? As the fire blazed brighter, illuminating the swirling chaos, a single thought whispered through her mind: this wasn't just about California anymore. It was bigger, darker. What is going on? The urgency tightened her voice, but the words felt fragile against the roaring backdrop of confusion. The man's eyes glimmered with a knowing frustration. "You'll find out soon enough, but time is running out." As he spun around and disappeared into the haze, Cassandra clenched her fists, determination rising within her. She would uncover the truth behind the chaos, come what may. But a shudder of doubt lingered. Was she prepared for what she might uncover when the dust settled and the spotlight turned toward the buried secrets of California? Cassandra's heart raced as the crowd devolved into sheer madness. A cacophony of shouts and crashing glass painted the night in strokes of chaos. The fire's glow flickered against her skin, almost beckoning her toward the unknown. Ethan remained frozen near the shadowy figure, and in that moment, indecision tore at Cassandra. What if she lost him in this turmoil? "Ethan!" she screamed again, her desperation cutting through the din. Just as she took a step forward, someone shoved her from behind, and she stumbled into a wave of bodies. Panic surged like electricity, and she gripped the nearest handrail to steady herself. "Hold on. We're not done yet," a voice yelled from the distance. It was one of the protest leaders, fueling the anger, rallying the restless masses. Cassandra caught sight of him from the corner of her eye, a firebrand amidst the flames. The crowd swelled, their rage palpable. She could feel the earth shudder beneath the weight of all that frustration, waiting to explode. "Follow me," the hooded man called to Ethan, urgency laced in his voice. But her brother hesitated longer than she could bear. Rage mixed with fear brewing inside Cassandra. "You don't know him." She lunged through the pressed bodies, crashing into an unyielding shoulder. "Ethan! Come here now." Her voice cut through the fray. For a fleeting moment, she saw Ethan struggle between loyalty to the strange man and the bond of blood. Then, with surprising resolve, he took a step back, and relief flooded Cassandra, filling her lungs with the fiery hope they would escape this chaos together. But before she could pull him to her, the man in the hoodie shot forward, gripping Ethan's arm. "Let go of him!" Cassandra screamed, her throat beginning to burn, mixing heat with escalating fear. The man locked eyes with her, his demeanor morphing into something almost predatory. You must understand, he hissed low enough to avoid the crowd's attention, this is bigger than both of you. Trust me, it's the only way to survive. Cassandra's instincts screamed danger, a warning call. Was this a mere diversion? What would that truth mean for Ethan? You're lying, I can't trust you. The man's face hardened, his mouth twisting into another smirk that turned her stomach. You already know too much, he spat. Behind them, the crowd seemed unleashed, the thrill of chaos intoxicating. A nearby group smashed yet another storefront, whooping like wild animals, each shattering piece echoing in her mind, amplifying the growing despair. The temperature around them felt unbearable, a storm ready to unleash its fury. Cassandra, please. Ethan's voice broke through her swirling thoughts, solid and sincere. His innocent face broke her heart, as if sensing the weight on her shoulders. I trust him no. She cried, pulling him closer. This isn't trust. It's manipulation. With an unyielding grip, the hooded figure pulled against Ethan, their bodies dangerously close. Cassandra's gut twisted. She felt the air shift around her, the raw energy of the crowd igniting further, but suddenly, everything changed. A deafening roar erupted from the heart of the chaos, and a blinding flash illuminated the night. An explosion rocked the street, throwing her backward as debris rained down, a thunderclap of unseen terror. Cassandra's vision blared bright before dimming into darkness, a stark reminder of her vulnerability amidst the chaos. As she lay in the rubble, dazed but not defeated, one thought burst through the fog filling her mind: what ice-cold secret had she stepped into? Then her eyes fell shut, one word echoing in the vast silence: Ethan. What awaited her when she woke? Would she find him? And what had really ignited the tension in California that night? Cassandra blinked against the dim light as her eyes flickered open. Her world was a jumbled mess of cracks and shadows. Pain radiated through her head like an unwelcome drumbeat, striking hard with each movement. She tried to pull herself up, the grit of broken debris scraping her palms. Ethan, she croaked, her voice barely escaping her mouth. The chaos outside felt muffled, as if she were submerged beneath a wave of confusion. She pushed through the fog of her disorientation, desperate to find him. The world around her began to come back into focus, a twisted wreck of metal and glass, smoke curling like restless spirits in the air. Cassandra swept her gaze through the devastation, hoping to catch a glimpse of her brother. The echo of the explosion clawed at her thoughts, reminding her of the split second that had shattered their reality. Cassandra. A voice cut through the haze, rich and full of urgency. She turned to find Ethan scrambling through the rubble. Relief surged through her like lifeblood returning after a deep freeze. Ethan. She cried, her heart thundering with joy, then quickly replaced by dread. Are you okay? I'm fine, he panted, his face smeared with dirt, eyes wide with raw fear. But we have to go. Now. Before she could respond, a cacophony of murmurs and shouts erupted from the streets. It was then that she noticed the snaking line of figures, wading through the debris, some clutching makeshift weapons. The crowd, now frenzied with rage and adrenaline, fed the fire of destruction that surrounded them. We can't stay here. Ethan urged, pulling her toward the nearest street. But Cassandra felt something nagging at her, a need for answers amid the chaos. Wait. What happened? Why are they so angry? Ethan's eyes strained with urgency. We can't dissect their emotions right now. You saw the blast, they're acting out because of the corruption that's been hidden for too long. We need to find shelter. Fury leaped in her chest. You mean we have to hide? While they go on destroying everything we know? For a split second, uncertainty flickered across his face. But then he set his jaw, determination piercing through the fear. Cassandra, it's not safe. It's every person for themselves. We can't be heroes right now. As they rounded a corner, the night air erupted with sudden cries. A group of protesters surged through the street, carrying hardware pipes and bricks, defiance written across their faces. One of them turned toward Cassandra, eyes wild with conviction. "Join us. Change doesn't happen quietly." She stood at the intersection between her instincts for self-preservation and a desire to uncover the truth. What about our home? What has become of this city? The question hung heavy in the air, tinged with desperation. Ethan gripped her arm, a new intensity flaring in his voice. "Cassandra, we can't fix this right now. We need to find Mom." That light outside flickered again, a flash of movement in the shadows. The hooded man from before staggered into view, disheveled but on his feet. His eyes were darting, scanning the area like a hawk watching its prey. The sight sent a chill through Cassandra, her gut twisting with instinctual distrust. "Don't go near him," she hissed under her breath, but Ethan's gaze followed the man. "Wait," he breathed, stepping forward. "Maybe he knows Ethan, stop. He's dangerous." But he didn't hear her. His eyes locked onto the hooded figure, who seemed to be beckoning him with frantic motions. "Ethan, this isn't a game." Her heart thumped painfully in her chest, an urgent warning pulsing through her veins. And just as Ethan began to move, the rest of the crowd erupted again, yelling, chanting, united by an unyielding rage. Then, without warning, gunshots pierced the air, every echo detonating a new wave of panic. Cassandra grabbed Ethan's hand, adrenaline spiking as people screamed and scattered like leaves in a storm. "Run!" she shouted, pulling him toward the alley, but the fear frozen in her stomach clawed at her thoughts. What was happening? Who was right? And more importantly, would they survive to find out? With each heartbeat, Cassandra knew they were becoming part of a deeper conspiracy, a deadly game where the stakes were dangerously high. Cassandra sprinted down the alley, her heart pounding in rhythm with each frantic step. The world felt surreal, a dizzying blur of color and terror. She could hear the distant chaos, voices mixed with gunfire echoing off the brick walls. Her fingers clutched Ethan's tightly, weaving through the wreckage that sprawled around them. "Where do we go?" she gasped, desperation creeping into her voice. Ethan jerked his head, scanning the narrow passage. "There. We can hide in that doorway." He pointed towards a battered wooden entrance that stood slightly ajar, shadowy and inviting. They dove inside, the door slamming shut behind them with a deafening crack. The air was thick with dust and mildew, and the gloom embraced them like a shroud. Cassandra pressed her back against the cool wall, straining to hear above the pounding of her pulse. "What just happened out there?" she breathed, eyes wide with raw fear. Ethan leaned closer, his expression frantic. "It's the government. They've been hiding things, and now the people they've had enough. This isn't just a protest, this is a revolution." Revolution. The word sent shivers down her spine. It conjured images of violence and upheaval, of neighbors turning on neighbors. Reality crashed against her like brittle glass, leaving her feeling exposed and vulnerable. "Mom, she's out there," Cassandra whispered, a lump forming in her throat. "She'll be okay. We just need to stick together." Ethan's voice wavered, but he pressed on. "We have to get to her. Do you think she's safe?" That question hung heavy between them, a dark cloud of uncertainty that threatened to swallow them whole. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed down the hall, heavy and deliberate. Cassandra's heart stuttered in her chest, and she quickly shushed Ethan, their eyes darting toward the door. "What if it's them?" she whispered, her breath hitching. "It could be," he murmuringly agreed, fear tightening his features. The footsteps grew louder, closer, and Cassandra felt every instinct scream that they needed to get out. "Ethan, we have to." Before she could finish, the door rattled violently. They froze, sharing a fleeting glance, a silent understanding passing between them. With a swift motion, Ethan shoved his shoulder against the door, bracing for whatever was about to come. Cassandra instinctively crouched down, trying to make herself small. The door burst open, slamming against the wall with an earth-shattering thud. A figure stood silhouetted in the doorway, breathless and wild-eyed. "Help! Please!" The plea spilled from the stranger's lips, cutting through the suffocating tension. Cassandra recognized the voice, her pulse quickening. "Is that?" Ethan pushed forward, the figure stepping into the dim light bruised and bloodied, but undeniably familiar. "Samuel?" Cassandra gasped as recognition dawning hit her like a wave crashing in a storm. "We don't have time." He panted, looking over his shoulder, panic etched across his face. "They're coming, we need to move. Now." Cassandra's heart raced, uncertainty and hope clashing in a chaotic dance. Was it too late for any of them? "Who is coming?" Ethan demanded, shaking off the shock. Before Samuel could respond, a cacophony of powerful footsteps erupted outside the building. Heavy shouts merged into a terrifying chorus of voices, threats laced with authority and fury. "They're hunting for dissenters," Samuel explained, urgency fueling his words. "We can't stay here. We have to find a safe place. If we don't, we'll end up." His voice trailed off into the suffocating air, leaving a chilling implication hanging between them. Cassandra's breath hitched, every instinct screaming at her to act. They could leave now, escape into the unknown, but the thought of abandoning her mother paralyzed her. Then, with a final surge of determination, she clasped Ethan's hand tighter. "We're not going anywhere without Mom." But was that decision leading them to save their family or to lose everything they held dear? As the pounding at the door intensified, sending splinters flying, a choice loomed ahead, threatening to rend their fragile unity apart. Would they stand and fight, or flee into the chaos that had swallowed their world whole? The moment of truth was upon them, and as fear encroached, Cassandra sensed that everything was about to change forever. Would they find the strength to face the storm, or would they become lost in it? The air was electric, thick with tension as Cassandra, Ethan, and Samuel stood frozen in the murky gloom of the abandoned entryway. The echoing footsteps outside grew louder, cleaving through their fear like a knife. Each knock against the door reverberated in Cassandra's chest, stirring a primal urge to flee. "Cassandra!" Samuel's voice broke through her daze, sharp and urgent. "We need to make a choice, fast." She nodded, her throat tight. "But I want to leave without Mom." "Listen to me," Samuel insisted, urgency spilling over into desperation. "If they find us here, we won't just lose her, we'll lose everything. We can't risk being caught." Cassandra's mind raced, visualizing her mother's face, her hopeful smile, and the warmth of her embrace. But the reality of their situation clawed at her. The government was cracking down ruthlessly. People didn't just disappear, they were eradicated. The notion of living in a world where that could happen chilled her to the core. Ethan, breath coming in rapid bursts, glanced nervously at the door. What if they're just patrolling? Patrolling? Or hunting? Samuel snapped back, tearing Cassandra from her spiraling thoughts. "We can't wait around to find out." With every instinct screaming to break the chains of indecision, Cassandra took a deep breath, forcing herself to focus. "You both know my mom would never forgive me if I ran away without trying to find her. We'll go together if we get out," Samuel urged, his eyes wide with urgency. "We can't stay here. Trust me. I know where we can find shelter." Just as she was about to respond, a loud crash smashed into the door, sending splinters flying across the room. Cassandra's heart seized. "Go! Now!" Samuel shouted, grabbing her by the wrist and pulling her towards the back of the room. "If they breach that door, we're done." The three of them stumbled deeper into the shadows, where claustrophobic walls pressed in as if trying to swallow them whole. They moved instinctively, silence stretching taut between them like a drawn bow. Then came a voice, gravelly and menacing, barking orders just outside. "Search every corner. They won't escape this time." Cassandra's stomach dropped. Panic clawed again at her gut. What do we do? She whispered, her voice cracking under the pressure of fear. We stick as close as we can. Just stay quiet and follow me. Samuel's grip on her arm was steel, firm and guiding as he led them deeper into the shadows. They stumbled down a narrow hallway, the darkness swallowing them whole. Dust whispered around them like ghosts, a muted reminder of what lay outside. Cassandra's heart raced. The world beyond felt like a forgotten nightmare. Suddenly, a sharp sound sliced through the stillness. A ragged scream echoed from outside, full of pain and desperation. It sent shivers down Cassandra's spine, a grisly reminder of what the chaos outside truly meant. Her throat burned with unspoken tears, and she squeezed her eyes shut against the raw emotion. Keep moving. Samuel urged again, but the fear held her frozen in place. Ethan's breath hitched beside her, fear welling up in his voice. They're going to kill us if they find us. At that moment, another voice, this one soft but panicked, floated through the open doorway. Ethan? Cassandra? Is anyone there? Mom? Cassandra replied, the fragile hope threading through her voice. But before she could wrestle herself free, the sound of heavy boots stomped closer, echoing in ominous rhythm. Hide! Samuel hissed, shoving them behind a crumbling wall just moments before the doorway burst open, flooding them with blinding light. As Cassandra crouched down, heart pounding and breath held tight, she could feel the world tilting on its axis. The nearness of danger oozed into every fiber of her being, mixing with hope and despair in a volatile cocktail. With a small crack between the crumbling bricks, she peered through, catching a glimpse of men in dark uniforms swarming the hallway. Their faces were grim, their eyes scanning the shadows with chilling certainty. Cassandra's heart sank, recognizing that even if they found her mother, the world had shifted irreparably. Could they find her in time? With a new wave of determination, she promised herself that she would not succumb to the chaos. But with every passing second, the stakes grew higher, the danger pressing in like a vice, and the harsh whispers of betrayal were tantalizingly close. Would they beat the clock, or was it too late for any of them? Cassandra's pulse thundered in her ears, drowning out everything around her. The dark uniforms moved closer, boots thudding against the ground with a rhythmic menace. Each sound felt like a countdown, and as much as she wanted to scream for her mother, the words lodged in her throat like a stone. Stay quiet. Samuel hissed again, his expression taut with fear. They pressed against the rough wall, breathing low and shallow. Cassandra's heart raced, a wild animal trapped inside a cage. She squeezed Ethan's hand, feeling the sweat and tremor in his fingertips. What if they find us? Ethan whispered, voice barely audible. We won't let that happen, Samuel replied firmly, though Cassandra could see the flicker of doubt in his eyes. They could only hide for so long. The men in uniform stepped into the hallway, their conversation low but edged with intimidation. Check every nook. We can't let them slip away again, one of them barked, his voice cutting through the dense air. Cassandra's stomach twisted. Their search was relentless, and the longer they stayed hidden, the more she felt the weight of time pressing down on her. What if her mother was caught while they sat here, terrified? She stole another glance through the gap in the wall, watching as the shadows shifted and merged. It felt surreal, a nightmare unfolding too slowly for her to deny it. Mom, she whispered, feeling tears sting her eyes. We need to go, Samuel interrupted, his voice a low growl. Before they get here. We're running out of time. Cassandra twisted back to him, desperation building. You don't understand. My mom might be out there. I can't just leave her. Staying here won't help her. You know that. Samuel shot back, his frustration boiling over. We have to find a way out first. If we don't, we'll never see her again. It felt wrong to run without looking for her, but what choice did they have? More shouts erupted from outside, the sound of shouting men nearing their hiding spot. Cassandra clenched her fists, trying to wrestle the overwhelming dread flooding her heart. Okay, she breathed, swallowing her defiance. Let us find another way. Samuel nodded, and together they edged backward, carefully retreating deeper into the wall's shadows. They moved in silence, as the voices grew distant, punctuated by the crashing echo of heavy boots. But just as they thought they were in the clear, a loud crash shook the ground, causing dust to rain down upon them. They froze, panic rising like bile. Check that side. A voice called, sending a wave of dread rippling through Cassandra. It sounded closer than before. Samuel led them farther into darkness, heart racing like a drum. They stumbled through a narrow corridor, the sharp scent of rot flooding their senses. The walls seemed to close in, the darkness almost palpable. Which way? Cassandra's mind raced, trying to make sense of the labyrinth before her. Down. We need to go down. Samuel shouted, urgency blaring in his voice as he yanked Cassandra and Ethan towards what seemed like a staircase. With each step, the oppressive dread lingered over them like a dark cloud. The air grew cooler, the dampness creeping into their skin. And yet, there was a flicker of hope. If they could just get to the lower levels, maybe they would hide from the searching eyes above. But then the unmistakable sound of footsteps thundered overhead, and sheer terror gripped Cassandra. What if they find us? She murmured, feet almost faltering. Focus. Samuel replied, gripping her shoulder. We stick together. We'll find her. I promise. They descended further, deeper into the unknown, but as they reached the final step, a loud crash above sent tremors through the ground. The uniformed men were descending too, and she could hear their voices clearly now, anger and determination intertwining in a chilling chorus. Spread out. They're here. Adrenaline surged within her. The sound of heavy boots grew louder as panic surged along with the cold realization of their dire straits. How much longer until they caught up? Get ready to run, Samuel whispered urgently. But just as she prepared to move, something glimmered at the corner of her eye, a piece of paper flapping against the stone wall. Curiosity piqued, Cassandra reached for it instinctively, glancing back to see Samuel and Ethan poised for flight. What she saw froze her in place. A map with an X marked in red. Cassandra. We don't have time. Samuel's voice sliced through her trance. She took a step back. Wait. This could lead to her. But before she could explain, the footsteps above clanged down the hallway, echoing her own heartbeat. Cassandra. Samuel's voice grew frantic. The choice was agonizing. Should she chase the promise of the X, that faint beacon of hope, or run from the very real danger closing in on them? What if the truth behind the map turned the tide for them? Should she risk it all for a chance? The pounding footsteps grew nearer, urgency surged through her veins. She would have to choose: find the X and risk discovery, or run, leaving everything behind. A blinding light flickered from above, stepping into her fragile sense of security like a predator stalking its prey. As they stood at the brink, it was all laid out ahead of her: risk it all or face the men who hunted them. With her breath hitching, she made her decision. Cassandra's heart raced, but as the chaos above closed in, she could feel a pull toward the map, the X pulsating with promise. She glanced back at Samuel and Ethan, their faces framed by fear and desperation. Just a moment. She whispered, her voice urgent yet tremulous. Her fingertips brushed the map, feeling its rough edges. What if it led to her mother? The thought surged through her like electricity. She could almost see her mother's face, hear her voice. Cassandra, don't. Samuel hissed, pulling her back with a mix of urgency and fear. If we stay here, they'll catch us. But the map felt like destiny. What if this leads to her? What if we can find a way out of this nightmare? Your mother wouldn't want you to risk your life for a chance, Ethan spoke up, his voice hoarse with fear. His eyes darted toward the flickering shadows above. Please, we need to move. Every part of her wanted to argue, to cling to hope and the possibility of rescue. But the approaching footsteps were louder now, echoing down the hall in a relentless symphony of dread. "Fine," she finally whispered, folding the map hastily before shoving it into her pocket. "But we need to remember this place." With renewed intent, they turned away from the staircase and plunged deeper into the shadows of the corridor. The air around them grew colder, pressing in on their lungs. Each step felt like a weight dragging them down, the fear of what lurked behind fueling their urgency. "Do you think they'll find her?" Ethan's voice trembled as they moved. Cassandra wanted to reassure him, to say something that could chase away the darkness creeping in. "We're going to find her." "We will," she promised, though doubt gnawed at her. Rounding a corner, they stumbled into a larger chamber. The walls loomed like giants, adorned with peeling posters of a once vibrant world that felt miles away. She glanced up at them, faces of brave heroes who had fought through struggles. Would she become one of them? "Look," Samuel pointed towards a faint light flickering at the far end of the room. "Maybe it's an exit." Glimmers of hope ignited in her heart, and they moved toward the light tentatively. But as they approached, the sound of voices shattered the fragile bubble of optimism. "It has to be near here. They can't have gone far," a voice growled. Cassandra's breath caught in her throat, paralyzed by fear at the idea of being found. The anxiety sparked like wildfire, consuming her thoughts. "Hide!" Samuel commanded, and they ducked behind a rusted metal structure that smelled of decayed dreams. They pressed into the darkness, hearts pounding. Cassandra squeezed her eyes closed, silent prayers pouring out in her mind. "Mama, please, I'll find you." "Just hold on," she whispered urgently, her voice barely a breath among the chaos. "Keep quiet," Samuel cautioned, his eyes keenly focused on the distant voices creeping ever closer. "Over here. I swear I heard something." Cassandra's chest tightened. Panic swept through her, and she shifted her gaze to Samuel. "What do we do?" "We wait," he hissed through gritted teeth. As the men's footsteps echoed around them, she caught sight of the map peeking from her pocket, an unspoken promise of a chance. Shivering fingers reached for it, and she felt the whispers of fate guiding her thoughts. That X could mean salvation or doom. As shadows swirled and clashed above, time stood still. Would the map offer them a way to escape this living hell, or would it lead them straight into the arms of their pursuers? Cassandra held her breath, every pulse in her body urging her to make a choice before it was too late. "Look out!" Samuel suddenly shouted, jolting Cassandra back to reality as the clang of footsteps had landed just outside their hiding spot. Would this moment reveal her fate? Would she dare to trust the map once more, or let it slip through her fingers as the darkness closed in? A choice loomed heavy over them as she wrestled with uncertainty, and the next heartbeat felt like eternity. What would she risk to break through the shadows into the light? The footsteps hesitated, a moment of doubt lingering in the air. Cassandra clenched the map in her hand, feeling the rough edges digging into her palm. If they discovered her, it was over, just a blip in the abyss of desperation. But somewhere deep inside, hope throbbed, wild and undeterred. "Stay very still," Samuel whispered, inching closer to her, his presence both grounding and suffocating. The voices outside grew louder, bickering amongst themselves. What if they went this way? Another voice growled, echoing the turmoil in her heart. "It's musty in here." "They won't be checking this mess," said the first voice, dripping with arrogance. Cassandra's pulse quickened, pounding in her ears. What if they did check? It would mean certain doom. Breathe. She forced herself to inhale, to hold on to that raging hope. They needed to navigate this mess together. The men outside exchanged murmured answers, and then silence, an agonizing pause that stretched like a taut wire. "We're running out of time," Ethan whispered, his breath shaky. "If we stay here, I know." Cassandra shot back, feeling the tears prick at her eyes. "But if we move now and they hear us just then," a loud crash erupted outside, the sound of metal against metal. The three of them jumped, adrenaline blasting through their veins. "Quick! We have to go," Samuel urged, edging towards a far corner where shadows loomed thicker than darkness. The light at the end of the hall flickered, beckoning them like a siren. Cassandra hesitated, the primal urge to flee battling against the pull of the map. She bit her lip, eyeing the crinkled parchment. It housed the promise of her mother, that thread binding her through this nightmare. Could it lead them to safety? Or was it just an illusion? "Hey! Stop right there!" The voice boomed, snapping her from her thoughts. Panic surged through her body like fire, incinerating reason. Samuel grabbed her arm, ready to bolt, but she yanked free. "Wait!" she yelled in desperation. "The map!" The words erupted from her mouth before she could think. "Cassandra, no!" Samuel cried, but the voice faded as adrenaline took over. She pulled the map from her pocket, its surface gleaming in the dim light. "Follow me!" Cassandra shouted, sprinting toward the flicker ahead. She could feel the weight of their lives hanging on her decision. "Go, go!" Samuel and Ethan were right behind her, echoes of their footsteps merging into a chaotic rhythm. They burst through the large opening, the air fresh and biting against their skin. But the distant voices of their pursuers still lingered like vultures. "Did you see them?" One of the men shouted, the panic in his tone spurring them faster. "Cassandra, we can't keep this up. They'll find us." Ethan gasped, his breath coming in sharp bursts as they stumbled into a narrow alley lined with rotting crates. "Look! That door!" Samuel pointed toward the only prominent structure on the horizon, a dilapidated building with flickering lights. "It's risky, but it could be our only hope," Cassandra said, heart racing with fear and excitement. As they darted toward the door, the map slipped from her grasp, fluttering to the ground like a fallen leaf. "No!" She turned, reaching for it, but Samuel yanked her back. "Cassandra, we have to move. Now!" He was right. Time was against them. But leaving that map behind felt like leaving her mother all over again. Gritting her teeth, she ran after her friends, the cries of their hunters fading behind them, but as they entered the building, the squeeze of panic set in again. Where would they go now? The light in the building flickered ominously. And suddenly, Cassandra froze. The room was filled with shadows, figures standing ominously, waiting. "Welcome," a voice boomed, shattering the fleeting hope in her heart. Was this the end of their escape, or the beginning of a new nightmare? She had a choice to make, one that would shape her fate forever. Cassandra's pulse raced in her ears as she took in the scene before her. The room loomed, filled with dark, shifting figures standing in a half-light, their faces obscured. It felt like they had stumbled into a lion's den, and instinct screamed for them to turn and run. Samuel tightened his grip on her wrist, a silent reassurance amidst the brewing storm. "Stay close," he whispered, his lips barely moving. The air felt electric, resonating with tension and trepidation. "Welcome," the voice repeated, smooth yet chilling, echoing off the unforgiving walls. A tall figure stepped into the light, revealing an imposing silhouette clad in a dark suit adorned with badges that glinted ominously. Cassandra's stomach churned, she felt as if their worst fears had been made flesh. "You've ventured far from home, Haven Tu," the figure taunted, a smirk playing on his lips. "But you're not alone in your quest for answers. We know your little secret." The implication hit her like a gut punch. Had they truly been tracked this whole time? Cassandra exchanged frantic glances with Samuel and Ethan. They might have stumbled into their greatest peril yet. "What do you want?" she shouted, trying to sound braver than she felt. "Oh, it's not what I want," he said, pacing slowly, "but what you'll choose to do that interests me." The shadows shifted, revealing more figures, men and women who looked more weary than threatening. Cassandra noted the haunted looks that swirled in their eyes, struggling against the currents of desperation and anger. Are you dissenters? She stammered, trying to grasp the implications. The man before her nodded, crossing his arms. We aren't the enemies you think we are. But we have a common problem: the government is hunting us, just as they hunt you. You're embroiled in something larger than any of us. Larger? Ethan echoed, his voice a mix of curiosity and fear. Like what? The man leaned in, the shadows deepening against his face. The truth about California. The secret that's about to set everything into chaos. Cassandra felt a surge of anger rise within her. We don't need secrets. We need our family back. The man paused, eyes narrowing. You think your family is immune to the winds of change? Change is a storm brewing in the distance, and when it strikes, it won't just be your mother, it will consume everything. They've already taken her. Ethan pleaded, his face pale. This isn't a game. A flicker of sympathy danced across the man's expression before he doused it with severity. Then you must understand you're in danger. Stay with us, learn what we know, and you just might find her before it's too late. What are you asking of us? Samuel demanded, absorbing every bit of tension. Join us or leave the way you came in, the man addressed quietly, eyes cold. The choice belongs to you. But don't think for a second that running will save you. Cassandra's heart thudded wildly. This was a moment of reckoning, a choice to entangle their destiny with the unknown. We could just go back to the street, Ethan suggested, shivering slightly. No. Cassandra felt her resolve solidify like steel. We came here searching for answers, and I won't retreat without knowing, however dangerous it is. As the weight of her words settled, the tension shifted. Shadows among the crowd relaxed slightly, a flicker of recognition crackled in their shared struggle. I'm in, she stated fiercely, her voice ringing out even as doubt threatened to undermine her. I'll fight for my family, even if it means facing my fears. Ethan visibly faltered, uncertain. Cassandra, are you sure? Together, she replied, squeezing his hand. We have to figure this out. We can't back down. Samuel nodded, shoulders squared. If there's a way to fight back, or to find your mom, we'll find it. The man in the suit looked impressed, perhaps even pleased. Then you are part of this now. But know there are risks ahead. The moment we engage in this struggle, there's no turning back. Cassandra took a deep breath, steeling herself against the fear creeping in like a cold fog. Was this the right path? The gravity of her choice weighed heavily, but deep within, she felt an ember of hope ignite. This was the beginning, not just for the secrets of California but for her family too. Tell us everything, she demanded, fixing her gaze on the man and readying herself for what came next. The room might have been cloaked in shadows, but within her, light blazed. As words were exchanged, futures were unwound, and plans formulated. A singular thought flashed through her mind: they were steering into a storm, and she could only pray for the strength to withstand what was coming. But she would save her family, no matter the cost, and as everything began to change, so too did the lives entwined within California's secret endeavor. Hey, if you've reached the end of this gripping story, it's time to take action. You need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss more exclusive tales that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash that like button now to keep this incredible content thriving in the algorithm. And make sure to flood the comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories. What do you think will happen next? This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this electrifying conclusion. Your support makes all the difference to us, and only true fans grasp the importance of standing together. Thanks for being a part of our community. You're the heart that keeps this story alive.